So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our May Business Education Compact meeting. We're so glad that you're here, that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to join us today, to learn from colleagues, to find ways to further collaboration and network among our workforce development communities. My name is Maricel. I work for the Alaska Safety Alliance, and I have the pleasure of helping to coordinate these meetings. Would somebody share a safety moment today? Cari-Ann, do you see anyone's hand up? If not, I've got one.
I don't see any hands up.
All right. Well, so it is the start of voting season. So my safety moment today is to remember to practice safe voting practices. Always wear a life jacket. The best life jacket is the one you will wear. Avoid alcohol when you are voting. Always check the weather, check your equipment, and have a safety plan. Tell someone where you're going and when you're going to return. So that's my safety moment today. Please remember to add the BEC to your recurring calendar. We will at some point come up with the technology to shoot it to your calendar, but we don't have that quite figured out yet. So please just go ahead and manually add it. In the meantime, I will send reminder announcements before the meetings and so forth. A few months ago, we sent a survey of the BEC out to all our membership. And one of the feedback we received is that networking is one of the most valuable assets to folks for the BEC. And we want to see our network expanded even further. So as such, I have composed an email. It should be in your email, in your inbox from me. It was supposed to send at 8 o'clock. And so you could just take that email and simply forward it off to any colleagues that you believe would benefit from being a part of our community here at the Business Education Compact. Please especially consider industry members. That would be an asset to our discussions, and folks that might find our panels and conversations helpful that are from industry would be especially bonus points. I would challenge everyone to send that email. I shot you to at least 3 colleagues that you don't regularly see here at the BEC. So speaking of our membership survey, today's topic is the integral role of college in workforce development. And this was developed from input that we received from this survey, that the BEC should include systems of higher education in our conversations in a meaningful way. There was a particular respondent that wrote into the survey that really resonated. This individual said that we need to balance how formal education is viewed. They made the comment that its value transcends how people prepare for jobs. It includes character building elements like contentment, reflection, service to others, all of these things that are so basic to being a human being. And these are qualities that we want to see in our workforce and our population. So with that, I would like to acknowledge our esteemed panelists today. We have Cari-Ann Carty, our Executive Director for the Alaska Safety Alliance. We have President Pat Pitney of the University of Alaska, President Janelle Vanasse of APU, and President Justina Wilhelm of Iḻisaġvik College. So with that, I'd like to introduce or invite our panelists to introduce themselves and start our session off with their general remarks. And I will invite Cari-Ann to go first.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mari. I'm not going to share my screen or anything, and I'm just going to hand off to you and Leanne here in our office to keep letting people into the room. I see that there's still people joining pretty regularly. Mari's absolutely right in how this presentation came about. Many industries in Alaska and across the U.S. are facing significant skills gaps where the demand for skilled labor exceeds the supply. CTE and vocational programs are frequently highlighted here at our workforce conversations as critical to fill these gaps because they are closely aligned with specific skills and competencies that employers need. However, it's important to note that while there is significant support for CTE and vocational training, employers continue to value traditional college degrees, especially for certain professions and fields where a higher level of academic education is indispensable. We think of like medicine, law, engineering. From ASA's perspective, an integrated approach that includes both traditional academic routes and technical training options can best serve the diverse needs of individuals, employers, and our economy. So the Alaska Safety Alliance since 1999, our mission has been focused on ensuring a highly skilled workforce sufficient to staff Alaska's industries safely and competitively now and in the future. At times, I think ASA has been perceived to be heavily, if not exclusively, working in the realm of vocational career pathways. However, we don't discriminate. Building a qualified Alaska workforce is as wide-ranging as the needs of employers and Alaska's industry sectors. ASA seeks to innovative approaches to collaborations to develop and bolster programs that align with industry needs through university degrees, professional development, apprenticeships, and other workplace training models. Additionally, ASA seeks to foster all pathways that transition from secondary education to post-secondary and career opportunities in Alaska. So as part of the process, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Alaska CAN network. And as many of you are aware, in the mid-2010s, Alaska CAN, also known as the Alaska Post-Secondary Access and Completion Network, set a goal of 65% of Alaskans completing a post-secondary credential by 2025. And to measure progress toward this goal, one of the first projects they took on was defining post-secondary credentials of value. The resulting definition was broadly based and included credentials that lead to employment, higher wages, career advancement, and/or increased job security. And I'll share some links in the chat after I wrap up my remarks. This is closely tied to a project that we're doing now in collaboration with the State of Alaska Department of Labor and the Janelle Commission. The valuable work of Alaska CAN has been incorporated throughout the process of creating the Workforce 2030 plan. Their definition encompasses a wide range of pathways to employment and advancement, all of which play a role, excuse me, in addressing the complexities of our current and predicted workforce demands statewide across multiple sectors. And we did a little bit of research to kind of see, other areas that are trending. I found this Forbes article that I thought was really interesting called "The Future of Work: Are Traditional Degrees Still Worthwhile?" And this article explores the evolving relevance of traditional college degrees in today's job market. It highlights that many employers, including major companies, government agencies, are increasingly valuing specialized skills and on-the-job experience. This shift is partly driven by our nation's skills crisis and technical advancements in fields like IT and AI, where specific skill sets can be more critical than a degree. However, traditional degrees still offer benefits, particularly in developing life skills, providing a foundational education experience, which include face-to-face interactions and networking opportunities. The Forbes article suggests a trend toward valuing practical skills and also suggests that a trend could influence traditional education pathways to integrate more flexible learning opportunities, such as online courses and on-the-job training to support lifelong learning and keep pace with evolving industry needs. A more recent article talks about 5 higher education trends to watch for in 2024, which offers a perspective on the shifting dynamics within higher education that could affect future role and value of traditional degrees in workforce development. And some ideas from the article include new enrollment strategies that could diversify the educational pathways and provide greater access to career readiness through colleges and universities, creative solutions for universities to adapt their curricula to meet workforce needs, like what innovative approaches are being looked at to integrate practical skills into traditional degrees, and adoption of AI in teaching and learning processes to transform the educational landscape and make learning more personalized and possibly more aligned with industry needs. Could this trend enhance the practical value of traditional degrees by incorporating real-world applications and new technologies into the curriculum? In addition, it talks about ways to adapt the university curricula in response to employer needs. And the Forbes article shares examples such as offering 3-year degrees, which we've seen a trend in some colleges, and integrating skills-oriented courses and certificates into traditional degree programs. Overall, the article suggests that traditional degrees are still vital, that they're a vital component of workforce development, and their structure, content, and methods of delivery are rapidly evolving to meet new educational economic realities. This evolution could bridge the gap between education and the practical needs of the workforce. So that's kind of where this conversation is coming from. I'll share those links in the chat, and I'll pass it back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Cari-Ann. And I'd like to invite President Pat Pitney to come on in.
Thanks for having me, Mari. Cari-Ann, thanks for the introduction on the kind of some of the background. That was helpful. So, University of Alaska is Alaska's public higher education system. So in other states, you have a community college system, you have state college systems, and you have university systems. Here we have the University of Alaska system, which has from the 1- and 2-year certificate and associate's degrees all the way through to the PhD program, because we encompass all of higher education. We serve right now about 22,000 students in a year, and make up roughly 90%, just short of 90% of the higher education enrollment in the state. I think we're very proud of our 3 universities and our community campuses that stretch from Ketchikan to Kotzebue. And what we want, what our interest is serving the high demand job areas of the state, whether that's a 1-year med tech degree, or whether that is an accounting degree or a master's in Arctic engineering. The a lot of work for teachers, a lot of emphasis on teachers, a lot of emphasis on healthcare, a lot of emphasis on engineering, and those are all areas where we need workforce. I see Dave Reese there in the audience. Dave was instrumental in helping us start the process technology degree back in about 99, and that was an example of industry saying we need people who have this skill set. A similar partnership with industry we've just kicked off is our construction management, where we got construction industry together with our deans. We just had a final meeting. Our enrollment is up dramatically. Our program is designed to meet the construction management needs and provides the specific skills that they need. So, when we talk about traditional college, the University of Alaska serves that role, but we also serve our community college and technical college role in the state as well. I think one of the biggest things for all of us to keep in mind is 80% of the students who complete their degree in Alaska make Alaska their home. They contribute to their community, they contribute to the workforce. Only 25% of the students who choose to go out of state for college ever come back to the state in the long run. So if we want workforce, we need to encourage students to stay in state. and look at programs, whether it's the University of Alaska, APU, Iḻisaġvik, look at programs in Alaska first, ABTech. That's how we're going to keep our workforce. That's how we're going to build our workforce. An area that we're starting to examine is how does the University of Alaska become a destination for young young adults? So it's their entry into Alaska to become the next best Alaskan. So I think that's an important component. And with that, I'll leave I won't go too much deeper into the introduction. I'll let everybody else introduce themselves and their university, and look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Pat. Now I would invite Justina Wilhelm to hop in and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mari. Good morning, everyone. My name is Justina Wilhelm. I'm the president here at Iḻisaġvik College. I've been the president here since October of 2020, but been with the college since for about 7 years total. Prior to that, I come from a health background. I worked at the North Slope Borough Health Department, behavioral health, for about 14 years prior to that. I'm very happy to be here today to share about Iḻisaġvik College, to provide a little bit of a background of Iḻisaġvik College. We were established in 1995 with our first graduating class in 1996, but prior to that, we went through various iterations of different names. Inupiat Community of the Arctic. Once upon a time, we were an extension of the UAF system. We were part of the North Slope Higher Education Center and the North Slope Borough Workforce. So Iḻisaġvik is a direct outgrowth of the North Slope Borough government here, who is the home rule government here on the North Slope. We receive about half of our funding from the North Slope Borough. We became a federally recognized tribal college in 2005. We're sanctioned by the Inupiat Community of the Arctic Slope, ICAS, which is governed by the Indian Reorganization Act, the IRA Act of 1934. And we are also accredited by the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. Some statistics or breakdown of our student population. We have about 50% of our students are workforce development, short-term trainings, and the other 50% is more of the academic track of our students. 63% of our students are Alaska Native American enrollment. One of the aspects for being a tribal college is that we need to remain with our 51% Alaska Native American enrollment. And I believe as of now, there's currently 34 tribal colleges across the United States, with Alaska being the only one right now, but I know there are some entities within the state that are pursuing that as well. We average about 1,200 students per year, and we have a high percentage of non-traditional students. We have 65% of our student population is over the age of 25. We offer 1 bachelor's degree in business administration, 12 associate degrees, and a handful of certificates and endorsements that are very critical to our region to allow our communities to keep going with our CDLs, our HAZWOPers, the NSTCs that we direct and support for those trainings, so that our roads could be operating, our lights could be running, very, very important areas. We also became an approved driving school for the state of Alaska. One of the areas that we are impacted in a smaller rural region is when the DMV does not have staffing. Our communities have to travel to Anchorage. It could become very expensive when you have to go from a smaller village from Barrow, one of our 7 outlying villages, to go to Barrow and then to fly to Anchorage to pay for a hotel, food, and all of that stuff just to get a driver's license or an identification card. So we're really thankful that we're able to provide this service, not only to our students, but we're open to the public so that our public individuals could receive this service as well. Just listening to what the folks have shared today, it's very, we have housing shortages that impact individuals to remain in our community, and what President Pitney was sharing about trying to identify ways to have Alaskans remain here at home and remain residents. I would just want to bring up that, you know, it's oftentimes we lose students, we lose families that move and relocate maybe to Anchorage, maybe to Fairbanks, or even out of the state due to lack of housing. So that's one area that we see here at Iḻisaġvik College, and our communities as well. So that's a little bit about Iḻisaġvik. I'll pause there. Really thankful to be here, and as Mari, you shared, to share this invite to other individuals, and I'll definitely do that so that we can continue to stay abreast and be connected with all of the wonderful folks that are online today. So, Cari-Ann.
Thank you very much, President Wilhelm. And now I would like to invite President Janelle Vanasse with Alaska Pacific University.
Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate being here. And I'm Janelle Vanasse. I am the president of Alaska Pacific University. I've been here for about 2 years. Some of you may be having flashbacks because I was part of workforce development in lots of roles in the past, primarily when I was out in Bethel with Iḷisaġvik and then in a K-12 world. So I'm really proud to be here. APU was established right around 1960 with a graduating class, and our founder, Peter Gordon Gould, was an Alaska Native man who had kind of his own interesting journey to education and returned to Alaska and made it a mission to establish higher education here in Alaska for Alaskans to grow Alaska leadership. So it is within that original mission that we continue to kind of be focused. We started as Alaska Methodist University. We switched to Alaska Pacific University in the 70s. And in 2017, we started a strategic partnership and refocused that emphasis on serving our tribal communities and our Indigenous people, and are on a journey to to hopefully become a tribal university. Within that mission, we're not waiting until we get a designation to make a focus on serving our tribal communities and our Native organizations and the needs that they have. We are a private university, and we are small, and that's part of what makes us a good fit for some folks. So we see ourselves as just an important part of our overall statewide system of making sure that students have a post-secondary option that makes sense for them. So we're about like I said, about 600 students, about 30% Alaska Native right now. A piece of data we're particularly proud of is it just came out in the Alaska Higher Education Almanac, a 75% graduation rate with our Alaska Natives. That uses a pretty small cohort of only first-time transfer or first-time freshmen. But even when we look at all of our transfer students and such, we have a 50% graduation rate for our Alaska Natives, which is something that we're really proud of and we want to grow. And that is a rate that is actually slightly higher than our overall rate. So a good indication that the efforts that we're making are serving this, the need of this population that for too long in our state has just struggled to find their way through higher education at the numbers that our other cohorts have. So I'm super proud of that effort. In doing that, we don't have, we really appreciate the University of Alaska system and all of the programs they have. And we're pretty honest, we don't have all of that. We have a handful of programs, but they are designed to meet specific needs. And I think we offer them with our students really receive a lot from that. So in some cases, we have programs that the other universities are not as focused on, such as our outdoor education program, which is just world renowned and is quite amazing. We recently picked up creative writing, but sometimes it's just in those high need areas where we all could be, producing nurses, and we are. We also see ourselves as partners. So we're really proud that we work with Iḻisaġvik and support a nursing program there, that between the partnership, we're creating nurses right there in that community. And we have other communities that we do that with as well. So I know we've got lots of questions, so I don't want to continue to go on too long, but look forward to continuing to talk about APU and the needs of our whole state for workforce development.
Thank you, Dr. Vanasse. So this time we'll move into our moderated discussion. And I'd like to direct our first panelist question to President Pitney and President Wilhelm. What role do you see colleges and universities playing in shaping the workforce of tomorrow?
Absolutely critical. Part of our job is to teach students to be able to accommodate change over time and to become lifelong learners. I sometimes shorten that down to, it's our job to teach students how to think critically about their current job and what the best way is to make their job improve on their job, and a constant improvement. So beyond the technical skills, it is how do students become lifelong learners? Beyond the jobs of today, what skill sets, what knowledge, what characteristics are we encouraging so students can handle the change that's coming about? We think about the transformation that artificial intelligence is going to have on our society. Our faculty are incorporating AI into curriculum, but they're also incorporating the ethical use of AI and the critical thinking of when you used AI to produce something, did it actually produce an accurate assessment? And how do you know that? And I think those are the skills that are absolutely important for any society and community. In terms of kind of the workforce, what we're seeing is a modernization of our programs. And so one program that's coming up for review by the board in a couple of weeks is our energy resource engineering. So we have a petroleum engineering program. We have a geological engineering program. We have a mining engineering program. But as we see alternative energy coming about, this resource engineering takes a lot of the petroleum engineering program, because that is all about energy, but also then aligns to that the renewable and clean energy, carbon sequestration, and all of those pieces. So we're evolving into kind of what the new needs are going to be. And I do think, as any organization, you always have to stay on that front line. Another area where we have a new program is aerospace engineering, but largely focused on the work we're doing in unmanned aerial systems and drones. And that whole field is just exploding and can be used for rescue, wildfires, counting, fish and game counting. And pretty soon, remote freight delivery. I mean, that's on the very, very near horizon. So we have to just keep evolving, and constantly modernizing and paying attention to what the next wave of jobs are. And we have to do that while we're still creating the nurses, because, yes, we all have some programs that overlap, but the state needs more than all of us combined can produce. So rather than worrying about who's doing what, the more we can do to keep people in state, the better off we all are. So I think that covers mine. A little long-winded.
Thank you, Pat. Justina, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So for Iḻisaġvik College, our mission is to serve to grow our homegrown students, to create an environment that will allow our individuals to be well educated and trained in the various workforce needs, not only here on the North Slope, but throughout Alaska, and to keep abreast of what is needed for that. And as a community college like Iḻisaġvik, we must create programs that are interesting and relevant to the jobs available, to entice those individuals to attend post-secondary education. And this is especially true for the rural areas that Iḻisaġvik serves. And as Alaska's only tribal college to target the Alaska Native populations, and looking to identify what are the various barriers to post-secondary education and what are we doing to address those. We have a high population of first-generation college students here at Iḻisaġvik College. 70% of our students are first-generation college students. It's important for us to be aware of those small things that may deter our students away from higher education, from homesickness, cost, how to complete a FAFSA, what are the basic skills of being homesick, or if somebody passes away in a community and they're grieving, how do we support our students, as well as with subsistence. It's whaling right now, and how are we, thankfully our semester wrapped up, but I have students who are in, children who are in high school right now, and I think my son has had 5 subsistence days in the last 2 weeks. So thinking of how to support that. I think it's very important for institutions to be connected with the employers that we work with, to determine what the training is that will empower our residents and to attain the jobs in the rural communities. We have, we're located in Iḻisaġvik, but we also have a statewide reach. And as President Vanasse shared, we have a partnership with APU for the pre-nursing, for our AA to the BA with APU. We need our teachers. We have our partnerships with the University of Alaska Fairbanks with the teacher ed program to support our students to pursue that, along with just various partners from, for example, the Aleut community of St. Paul. We're working with them on a lot of the science and research opportunities that they're wanting to build up in their communities, and just working with whoever wants to, whoever we can connect with to help shape and grow our future workforce. And it really is important to look backwards, to not wait until they get to us here in our higher education, but what are we doing pre-college programming, career readiness, those pathways. So we do stay connected with various MOAs for dual credit. We're ramping up for our summer camp programming here on campus with various workforce development day camps for high school and middle school students, to allied health, to some STEM camps for our students, so that we could just begin planting those seeds at a young age to help spark those interests and connect them and let them be familiar with I attended that summer camp at a college, and that's something I can think about moving forward. And again, just keeping abreast with future jobs and the workforce industry to align with our education tracks. And we're some things that we have been doing is working with employers to ensure our education and certificates and degrees could align with theirs on a career ladder, so that if they're in the workforce and they're working, how could we support them in a way that they could remain working, but then allow their salary to increase based on their certifications and degrees that they pursue. Something else that we're working on or working with is our Norfolk Borough secured a large facility in Prudhoe Bay, the Technical Training Center, where there could be a lot of potential opportunities of various workforce trainings. From what I hear, it's an incredibly large facility with housing and the kitchen, and has everything there. And working with the industry partners, oftentimes, again, you go on a rotational job and you're away from home, and you have to familiarize with that type of rotational work. And we've been discussing with different industry folks on this would be a great pilot to see, is this something you really see yourself in the future with these various workforce offerings that are occurring on the slope, as well as with the keeping abreast with the industry and the different things of, for example, what Conoco and their oil work that is growing with the employers and employees, and trying to get the Alaska folks in there.
Thank you both for those comments. I'm gonna add a spotlight for myself here. There we go. So both of our speakers just mentioned how important it is to partner with the communities they're serving. President Wilhelm, it sounds like you have many partners with communities that you serve. President Pitney just mentioned all of those important advancements in technology, and how the University of Alaska is keeping up with the cutting edge technology and constantly looking to be ahead of the curve, putting in new programming such as aerospace engineering, and I think you mentioned energy resource engineering. So now I'm going to direct this question to Cari-Ann first. How can the workforce community, especially including industry, be better partners with higher education?
Yeah, thanks, Mari. I think that our industry partners have a big role to play. And I think there's lots of different ways that collaboration can take place between employers and all types of post-secondary education. They can get involved with curriculum development. They can collaborate with the institutions to develop that curricula that is specific to the skills and knowledge that are relevant to their industry. Helping to ensure that students graduate with those competencies that are necessary for their workforce. One of the things that we've seen in the past that ASA has been involved with in the past are internships. I think that internships and having those opportunities for that hands-on on-the-job experience for students to gain real world participate in that real world job site while they're still in school. It kind of enhances their learning and also prepares them to be immediately productive once they get out of school. There's opportunities to do like guest lectures or expert sessions if they can be invited to share their knowledge and experience, or even their career pathways through some type of seminars or workshops. I think that direct interaction with employers is really critical for students to hear that kind of firsthand. What's a day in the life of this particular career look like? Asking questions in a non-threatening, easy kind of environment where that guest lecturer is in their classroom and they don't actually have to reach out to employers. I think some of our students are a little bit shy or feel like they're interrupting important professionals at the job, but if we can make that more approachable, I think that, and I think that all of our institutions are already doing this, but that advisory role and encouraging more industry representatives to be involved in those advisory boards. All of our institutions, AdTech, the university system, everybody has these advisory roles specific to their programs. I think we as a community need to encourage the employers that we know to be active and participate in that. Another area could be in scholarships and funding those degrees and education programs that lead to the workforce that they're looking for. I think that really, when they have some skin in the game and some money on the table, that makes it even more robust. I also think that establishing some type of feedback loop where the employers can kind of report back to the university how successful the graduates they brought into their firm have been with the education, where they might need some shoring up. And that's going to be different from individual to individual, but over time, I think gathering that data will show where specific pieces of knowledge might need to be incorporated back into the curriculum. But overall, I think it's a conversation that needs to continue to happen between the university systems, between all of our post-secondary education institutions and the industry, and however we can facilitate that as individuals in this kind of workforce community in Alaska is really important.
Thank you, Cari-Ann. Those are some great concrete examples. I'd like to invite Janelle in to add her comments from the perspective of the university. How can the workforce community be better partners with higher education, and specifically industry communities?
Sure. I think I'm going to jump right off of that statement of a conversation. And here's what I love, and I think we really need to lean into as being Alaska, is as large as we are, we're also very small. And we have the opportunity to truly partner and create an entire web of support and pipeline together. And that's something that I think we need to do. And thinking about that, what we know is we have low college going rates with our young people. So how can we partner and web and create a more blended opportunity for them to move from a high school experience into a post-secondary experience? That's one place. The other is we know that we have the highest number of some college and no degree. That means we have a lot of people out there working that did not complete something. Well, they're already working in industry. We know industry needs people that have certificates and degrees. And so working together so that those industries are identifying those people that with potential within their workforce already, and working directly with the universities to say, how can we support this person in completing this degree or taking the next step and moving them up? And so in some ways that goes to an answer here that higher ed needs to be flexible, that we're working with that industry and saying, can we start with a certificate? Then can we move to an associate's degree? How can we make sure people aren't in a position having to start over simply because, they got their credit somewhere else or they started with a certificate? How do we make sure that those pipelines work? And from the industry side, they can provide not only identifying those students, but supporting them through a scholarship, but more important through mentorship and time and encouragement of, here, go ahead and finish this. Here's some opportunities within our organization if that happens. So I think really leaning into our smallness, the ability of Alaska to operate as one unit that is collaborative and is looking to raise all people and increase our numbers of people completing degrees together, not in competition. I think those are our opportunities where we can act differently, and we can do that through true conversations as well as some flexibility on everybody's part.
Thank you. That final comment really warms my heart as somebody who coordinates the BEC. That's why we exist, is to have those conversations. And you're right, we are small enough that we can have them. President Pat, what are your thoughts on the recent trend of employers eliminating the requirement for 4-year degrees? I'm thinking most notably, Governor Dunleavy issued an administrative order last year replacing degrees with competency requirements, and that was done to address the severe shortage in state jobs. And this is a trend that we're seeing in different places.
I think it's inevitable, and I think it's just kind of the start. When there is such a workforce demand, we look for barriers to remove. And if someone has done that particular job for 10 years, but hadn't received the degree, and now can't qualify for the same job, it doesn't, as an employer, it doesn't make sense. But the person still needs skills and abilities. And I think all of our, we have changed our mindset to attract people, to provide a means of completion in as little as 9 credits with an occupational endorsement. But that occupational endorsement is the first step in a 1-year certificate, which is the next step in a 2-year associate's degree program, whether it's an associate's of science or, associate's of arts. They can go on to the baccalaureate. So building those pathways and making sure those pathways connect is something we've paid a lot of attention to. And I think we're going to more and more with the micro credentials, and that the micro credentials will really require a close collaboration with industry to get the right piece. As a large employer myself, I want to identify the three most critical accounting courses for our fiscal techs, so that they have the best background to go and figure out a way to incentivize them to take those 3 courses. And the other thing is, many of our degrees now are available online, and several online asynchronously. So and the university has always had a tradition of having a lot of evening courses, because we have, as everybody else here does, we have a working age population in our student body. And so making the courses flexible, making the time schedule flexible for the people who are enrolled is very important. Let somebody else answer, and if I have an alibi, I'll come back.
Sounds good. So Cari-Ann, can you weigh in on this question?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I specifically in the question you asked about the legislation that Governor Dunleavy put in place, I don't really have an opinion about whether it should be legislated or not. I think really the bottom line for us is, are the qualifications for the job fair, and not putting in, to Pat's point, a barrier that doesn't need to be there, right? Are the qualifications for the job based on the job they're going to do? I think removing a requirement for a degree is the right thing to do if the degree is not the stepping point that needs to be in place to get to that position. It's just I think that if it is the right qualification for the job, that it should remain in place, because there's a kind of another downside. Like, if you don't have very clear expectations or qualifications for the job, it can get a little bit subjective. The hiring manager has a little more flexibility on what qualifies someone for the job. We just have to be careful that we're not being exclusionary in the demands for the job, whether that means a degree or not a degree. What those qualifications are should be clear to the applicants, clear to those people moving into those career fields. And I don't know that if degree or not degree is the right question, I guess, but whether or not the person comes to the table with the right qualifications for the position.
Thanks, Cari-Ann. And I know I'm directing these questions at you specifically, but feel free if anybody else wants to weigh in, Janelle or Justina, feel free to weigh in on any of these. All right, so President Pat Pitney just mentioned that the UA system is now, there are many online classes. So my next question is really about the emergence of new technology and online learning and how that has affected your institution. Janelle, do you want to start with that one?
Absolutely. So part of an interesting history of APU is we were doing distance delivery before we had the technology to do it as cool as we do now. So it's always been part of kind of what we have done. So the shift wasn't a mindset shift. It was more of a shift in, what's now available and just having people more used to certain ways and certain technologies. But one of the important things that we have observed through our data, through comments from students, through our experiences, is that there are a lot of students in Alaska where the relationship is key to the learning. And there is a lot of relationship that happens when you're either in a room with someone or at least you're having that direct conversation. So we're looking a lot at, and we do a lot of hybrids that create some opportunities for some in-person time. We do a lot of synchronous education as well when we do distance delivery. So I think that is a key piece for Alaska, is it's not as simple as just taking education and putting it in some sort of access when you want through technology modules and throwing it out, particularly to rural Alaska. We have to keep in mind that need for the relational piece of it, the relevance piece. I think that too is where industry mentors, if we're working with an industry. And so while that student is learning, they're also having a mentor who's specifically tied to them within the industry. Some of those pieces I think are key if we're going to be successful with remote learning.
Thank you. And yes, relationship truly is key to learning for all students. Justina?
Yeah. Similar to President Vanasse, we, prior to COVID, due to where we are located, due to our 7 outlying villages not being connected by road, we were thankfully prepared with our distance education delivery. Again, with Zoom and everything else that we have, it's been helpful. One thing that we do need to keep in mind is that not all Alaska villages have the same bandwidth and connectivity, and it's some can connect with no issues, and some will prefer to just call by phone, going back to the old school teleconference based on the limited internet capacity. So that's something that we're still working with. All of our academic classes as of now can be completed via distance. And then with our work, aside from maybe the science labs and for that, and then the workforce is something that that requires more of the in-person pieces of that. For the what we found, and sometimes it's a little more costly, is that we go to the villages. So for the remote learning, we may travel to the villages and provide the services in the community so that individuals don't have to leave to receive the services. What we've continued on post-COVID is we provide a loaner laptop support, so our students could complete a request online if they need a laptop. That will allow them to be connected, and we will provide them a laptop so that they could continue with the remote learning opportunities for that. What else? Not so much remote learning and how our students attend the institution, but we have students who come to Iḻisaġvik and they reside in the dorms, but they have classes that are online, some of them. So making sure that they have that connection, but again, going back to our student population of first generation students is making sure that they have the support. Do they know how to use the technology? Do they know how to log in? Do they know how to ask for help? Sometimes they're, culturally, they may be more reserved and quiet and not want to ask. So familiarizing with our students, and we have something called the first year pathway program, where any of our first year students are provided for the first 2 semesters a point of contact that really helps them with the non-academic supports that maybe the faculty advisor would do, but more the student services will ensure that they're supported. And that's for the distance students as well as the in-person students.
Thank you.
A little bit on the kind of the options for and philosophy around distance and hybrid. So there, like I'd mentioned, we have some programs that are completely asynchronous, emergency management, for example. So people who are emergency management professionals can get all of their degrees and certificates. But then we have, as they had mentioned, the hybrid options. We also have cohort models. So like our human services program is very much focused on rural human services, and you bring the cohort together for a week, but then they're studying from their home community. Education is available, can be available for anybody in their home community. Another kind of area that I think is really important is dual credit and what Justina was saying about the early connection to college. And right now we have 3,600 high school students enrolled in dual credit, and that ranges from VOTEC in aviation to just your general history and accounting to on-site middle colleges. And that connection to the university early really helps, especially in those first generation students, that they're not expected to show up and be ready. So there is a little bit more hand holding in there. But we have the Alaska Advantage program that's available to all. It's a distance available, dual credit available to all school districts. And that's through the University of Alaska Fairbanks eCampus, but there's courses from UAF and UAS on that site. So I think that dual credit is an area of real opportunity for Alaska and addressing that low college going rate.
Thank you, Pat. You mentioned earlier that the University of Alaska has occupational endorsements and now working on micro-credentials. This is really exciting. That is such an important step towards addressing the needs of industry. Given that, how should we as a society, specifically us as Alaskans, provide students with a well-rounded education where we're giving them exposure to the art, the humanities, the liberal arts, in the midst of this workforce crisis where we tend to really hone in on those technical skills and job specific trainings.
Yeah. The employees, the employees that employers rate highest come into the workforce with a very well-rounded language, arts, humanities background, as well as the skill set to do the job. So when you're interviewing employers, when they're talking about, you know, their employees, they value that employee with the liberal arts education along with their skill set higher because of their critical thinking, their community involvement, their leadership. You know, those tend to rise to the top. But there's a balance because again, we have this workforce shortage. But what you tend to find is when somebody realizes they can get through the first course, they're not nearly as afraid of committing to that liberal arts. And we've seen so many success stories of somebody starts in a certificate and then realizes, oh my gosh, I can do this. They go on to an associate's and they're like, well, if I can do that, I can get a bachelor's. And then you fill out that liberal arts education. And as a society, we must value that. That's our citizenry. That's our democracy. That's, you know, we have to value that breadth in education and liberal arts education. And it has to be available. Do we have to require that? Not every employer requires it, and not every person chooses to do it. And so I think you just make it as present and as available. And as you progress into those degrees, then you have the expectation of that degree is to have that liberal arts component of your education.
Janelle, would you weigh in on this question?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I had some technical problems and went away for a little bit. But kind of similar to what Pat was saying is, we know that I read not that long ago that we are at a rate of change in our world right now that is faster than what psychology recognizes as the rate we can adjust to. So we are just in this constant level of change. So if we only focus on distinct skills, we are always going to be behind. And so I think that when we recognize, in addition to the skills needed for the job today, our leaders and our potential workers need to have those critical thinking skills, the problem solving skills. Those are the pieces that I think that as universities and colleges, we can really add to the education piece, so that students are coming out not just prepared to deal with the work today, but are prepared to think through and problem solve for the unknown that's going to come up tomorrow. So I think that is a really key piece. I also, when I read this question, I really thought about that well-rounded education. I believe this is another opportunity, and this maybe ties a little bit with what Pat was mentioning about dual credit, but we have an opportunity to work as a whole system. And, you know, our K-12 schools are struggling to create the opportunities that all of our students need. And we need partnerships to do that. Sometimes through dual credit, sometimes through summer camps, sometimes through internships with businesses, whatever that is. But if we can work as a whole system and create those pieces, we're going to have well-rounded young people willing and interested in taking whatever their entry is, whether that is directly with the industry and maybe come to post-secondary later, or directly into post-secondary as well. And so I think, you know, circling around an effort like our state effort for college and career guides is really important, and not having different ones in the school that are in the job center that are, you know, again, thinking about the ways that we can loop together and have that that network of services, I think is key to that well-rounded piece. And I think as universities, we need to be open and interested in how industry is looking differently at the education they need. And I think we would be not smart to just say, we're going to be the same kind of institution we've been for the last, you know, hundreds of years. Here's what a university is. Here's what we create, take it or leave it. And, you know, that's how it is. So we need to be prepared to bring what we bring best, which is that liberal arts and that critical thinking. And we need to be prepared to listen to industry and figure out how we blend and match that with what their needs are.
Thank you. As Cari-Ann and I were preparing for this talk, we talked a lot about the fact that this is a both situation, not a one versus the other situation. So thank you for highlighting that. We have so many excellent audience questions. I'm going to just remove our spotlight and invite the folks that have put questions into the chat to come into the room and ask your question. We have Dave Reese. We have Sheena that has asked a question. Kai, Tav, go ahead and unmute and you can ask your question.
I can respond to Sheena's.
Yep, please do.
So her question was, how are colleges changing to address working people obtaining their education? Most people do not have the luxury of leaving the workforce to join the degree program. Many already have access to real world opportunities in the workplace. In turn, the industry has to bend to grow. So some things that we have been doing is we're working with some local entities who would like to see their employees advance. So we have classes that are in the evenings that that they could attend that won't impact their work schedule. And the employer is actually providing a stipend to those employees who complete the courses here at Iḻisaġvik College. So that's one way that Iḻisaġvik has identified ways to support the working individual.
And I had a question that I wrote, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm Jody with 9-Star Education Employment Services. So one of the chief challenges for a lot of our students is they come in and they're getting their they're taking classes in preparation for the GED test to receive their HED, right? A lot of them come to us with a lot of barriers to success. One of which is that they may not be ready for the classes that contribute to the actual degree credits, like their math classes, the writing classes. And so they have to take these AccuPlacer, Alex Math Placement, and if they score too low, then they're going to have to take classes that don't contribute to the credit and increases the debt burden to these students. And one way to address that is partnering with adult ed programs like myself to help them prepare for these tests so they can go straight into earning these degree contributing classes. Instead of, in their eyes, it's increasing the burden to them debt-wise and wasting their time. So is there a plan at all to work with adult ed programs like ours and others to, and for instance, there's a vet tech program we want to get people ready for in the Matsu College, and we want to be able to do that. But we want to have more dialogue with the UA system, the APU system. So I would love to open that up to you guys.
The most effective way will be like on the vet tech is to reach out to the vet tech program lead in Matsu and have that conversation. And build that partnership. In terms of the developmental ed, well, a lot of the technique now is to put people in the lowest credit area, but then wrap some service around those folks so they, in the first couple of months, they catch up to that credit bearing class. In terms of partnering, specifically, again, I would suggest going to where there's the, like the English department, the testing center, folks, where they are starting it out, and have a specific conversation at that level. It's very hard to kind of push something from the very top down. But when there's a common interest and, kind of the win-win, it usually goes through. And like for the vet tech, they're, the more students they can get, the better, the more successful that program's going to be. So the more people we have driving students into a particular program, the better off we are. But in the same way, the students that are coming out of your program that want to take the next step, what are a few of the areas where you can have the next step? And I know that Ray Weber, our CTC dean, is on, and he may have like specific individuals that might be good contacts.
That'd be excellent. I mean, we're just looking for all the avenues to prepare our students for, post-secondary or what kind of technical degree that we can get. So thank you.
Yeah, it will not come from on high, but there are enough people that there's going to be win-wins to connect with.
Yeah. And Jody, I really appreciate that. And, I think that one of the things that is important for us as universities is to see ourselves as part of that solution piece and not just be, and I think we all do, not just be like, oh, here's our test score, and if you don't make this, you're not good enough. Right. And finding ways that we could partner with you. And that may mean working with you on kind of, here's some of the really key basic skills in writing and math that are going to really support somebody in, this placement tests. And we have different placement tests. But the other thing that we do, and I know we all do this, is we have some certificate programs that don't start with those kind of core classes, those foundational classes. And for some students, that is the better entry, because their ability to kind of process knowledge that is relevant to a specific job, whatnot, is an easier way to enter the college world, because it's more familiar than taking, writing 111 or whatever it is, and so we've played around with, for some students entering in certain ways, those classes that are typical freshman classes might not be their first classes that they take. They may be in the second semester or even the second year after they've had some practice in some courses that make a lot of sense to them.
Dave, can I invite you in to ask your questions that you put in the chat?
Well, most of my questions were all relevant to how do you reach both the students, the would-be students, and the employers in that relationship of either internships or mentoring or that sort of thing. And a lot of employers, and particularly the smaller employers, don't have people who have learned how to teach, how to mentor, and work through that. And so my question there was relative to what kind of support do you give to the employers to help this process of getting potential employees into their business in a way that they will be developing the credentials or the performances that are needed for those jobs.
Mm-hmm. So Dave, one of the things that we're doing more and more because we're seeing success with it is having that relationship with the industry partner. The partner is identifying their potential employees that they want to move along. So they're already invested. We have some sort of agreement, you know, so there's some sort of scholarship support that we share some costs of. And they identify a mentor. And then what we're doing is we are supporting the mentor with some courses or workshops, that kind of continued interaction with our professors, that piece, so that the mentor feels supported as well. And we've done that with our Alaska Native Education or Native Executive Leadership Program for years. We're doing with our nursing program. We're setting it up with some teacher education. It's just becoming more and more of a make sense model. And then as we reach out to industries that are in rural Alaska, because your earlier question was about that, it becomes even more important,
Yep.
right? Because they're in a position of doing more and more distance delivery, and they need that kind of person that they can connect with right there in their own community.
Good, thanks.
Mari, I kind of wanted to expand on Dave's question. I don't have an answer for his question, but here at the Alaska Safety Alliance, when we were APEC, we had a pretty structured internship program that we could assist our oil and gas folks, employers, to give them some guidance on how to host a process tech student in an internship. And I'm sure that there was some university involvement in developing that. Is that like a type of service that any of the colleges that are represented here today kind of can sit down with employers and help them understand how to have a successful internship program at their company?
I will let Ray take a stab at that after I kind of cover a slightly aligned topic. So we have career services departments that work with employers and students to match up opportunities at both the internship level and the employee level. So that career services is a resource. The most productive internships are where you have that link with the program and the faculty. And Ray and I just finished a meeting with the construction industry representatives yesterday. And, you know, that program requires an internship. In most of our health programs, it requires an internship. And so in the health programs, and I see Kathy Kraft is on, in the health programs, we have the Alaska Higher Ed Consortium, or Alaska Health Education Consortium. But it is a organization within the institution that works with health employers, programs, and students from high school all the way through to the WWAMI program that helps make these links between the employer, mentor, and the student, because they all have to have clinicals. We get into teacher education, and we have, you know, a internship requirement, student teaching. The state provided some money 2 years ago that we can provide some stipends now for students, so they aren't, you know, because we have so many people who are working, but when you now take a student teaching role, you can't work and go to school because you're working all day as a student teacher and taking classes at night. So being able to provide a stipend, but we also then provide mentorship post-teaching. Once they're into the school district, we have a program that mentors those teachers so that they have a longevity as well. But we're working with all the school districts to place students. Each school district then has to assign people But we are in constant contact with those individuals. So it's more mature in the health and in the education, but it's prevalent in a lot of areas. And with that, Ray, I'll turn it over to you to talk about other examples. If you're still there, tell me he's still there.
I am not sure that Ray is still on, and
Okay.
we would certainly be happy to, we could follow up with him
All right.
by email. All right, Kai, you had a couple of questions. Would you like to hop in here?
Hi, thank you. Good morning. I asked two questions, but I'll kind of tie them together for you. One question was about the role of the university and our college programs in accelerating startups and entrepreneurship with our students and engagement in the community. The other question was following up on the discussion about tech prep and other integrations, and was a question about, you know, what do we maybe think about just getting rid of 12th grade and going straight into middle college or straight into post-secondary education. And I'd like to tie the questions together for the panel with this observation that right now we're losing half of our graduates that leave. And my concern is that we're not creating exciting, engaging opportunities for our youth coming through our school system. And I see getting them involved in startups, emerging businesses, getting them, you know, earlier into post-secondary education that we know we're not doing well to transition them into that. And I'm wondering about your thoughts on the role of our education to create these exciting opportunities for our youth that engages them, maybe speeds up getting them into post-secondary education, or perhaps increases the role of the university in creating the new businesses that will create an exciting future for our state, and in fact, put us back on a growth trajectory, because we are shrinking. We need to turn that around. So kind of a big question. I'd welcome any thoughts you have on what you're doing or what we could be doing better. Thanks.
Hey, I'll give a couple of introductory remarks, and then I'll ask Adam Lowe to talk about some super exciting stuff that he's doing with the T3. So we have the Business Enterprise Institute with the Small Business Development Center down at UAA, and we've got what we call Center ICE, and somebody's going to have to give me all the acronyms, but it is the Innovation Entrepreneurial Center, and that one's at UAF, and those groups work together for business startups, and they provide opportunity to students and seed money for them to build innovative ideas with a startup business or with a existing business with an innovative idea. So I think there's a fair amount of work going on, but I'm going to let Adam talk about kind of the experiential opportunities that exist and the facilities and lab access for students even before they're college age. So go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I'm the director of a program called Teaching, or the T3 Alaska program called Teaching Through Technology. It works with students in high schools around Alaska to basically help them find a way to address community challenges with the partnerships that the university has. So I just pasted a graphic. I don't know if that actually comes through on the chat there, that kind of documents. We begin in that middle school, get students excited with STEAM fests and kind of activities that get students into there. And then we know some of those students translate into college, and that is awesome. And some of those students, after going through high school and getting excited about being connected to real people in their communities doing important work that makes a difference, whether it's I'm somebody who can drive a grader and make sure to keep the roads plowed or do projects. There are pathways for certification, for micro-credentialing, and dual credit opportunities that we can provide to help those students really feel that empowerment as they
address those. And we are seeing a return on that investment. A lot of those students go to college and say, I want to go back and help my community. I want to use my skills in that way. And we've tapped into the Center for Innovation, Commercialization, and Entrepreneurship to make it possible for students while they're still in high school to write little mini grants that, you know, just writing any grant is a skill set that teaches you about deliverables and all the aspects that go along with that. So we're really excited to be growing and to be adding this type of opportunity to really empower students to address the challenges they're facing, and then get that bug of, I'm making a difference. It feels good, and I can use my skills, my superpowers to make my community a better place.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Anna.
I think, oh, sorry.
Oh, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, I agree. The universities have a role in kind of creating some of that opportunity for exciting, relevant, you know, innovative projects for high school students. The Academies of Anchorage is, you know, a kind of a whole citywide project to kind of try and reach that down. However, I would say when the question is, you know, what do we think about eliminating 12th grade entirely and just moving right into a middle college, I would just pause and just think developmentally if it's necessarily a good thing to expect a compression for everyone. I think there's a lot of growth and learning that happens. And for some students, jumping right in and kind of getting to a faster exit point from their education might be the right thing to do because they're ready and they're interested in and whatnot. But I think we also want to create this space for those that may be still figuring out just where they are at and where they want to go and how that's going to all work for them. So I think I don't think it would be good to automatically expect a compression for everyone. And then back on the entrepreneur piece, you know, as APU has always had this commitment to hands-on education, which includes every student, regardless of what their degree is, selecting kind of something that's important to them and in incorporating that in a senior project in which they're applying the knowledge from their degree program, but in some sort of passion project. And the students who are interested in entrepreneurship have an opportunity to do that. And in fact, there is a really great project around some sort of diaper service that, you know, went right from a senior project to a money-making business for that individual. But I think, you know, I guess when I hear this, I think what we all need to do is create these opportunities and let students make some choice within there so that they are having the opportunity to go down the path that makes the most sense and is most exciting for them.
I think I'll add a little to that from the 12th grade, abandoning 12th grade. Something to keep in mind that we're still feeling is the pandemic and what that has caused through the span of when 2020 happened to what our students, those 12th graders, who have been impacted with the school. And I say that because I have teenage children in the home, and I really feel there's a connection with the impacts of COVID and their future plans of thinking what is next for them, and just being aware of that as well.
Thank you. And we didn't have time for our closing question, but if panelists have the time to just put in chat what your key takeaways you have for the group to remember regarding the value of a college degree in today's changing world, I would greatly appreciate if you'd weigh in on that, and I will shoot it out as an email to our BEC members. Just a couple of final announcements. Our June session is going to be focused on housing and childcare. And if BEC members have some insight as to good panelists to invite for this session, I would certainly appreciate it. We have a few in the hopper, but would love some further recommendations. Finally, I want to mention that in the fall, we will be having an in-person BEC meeting that will be October 25th. It also coincides with the Alaska Safety Alliance's annual meeting, so you could attend our BEC luncheon and program and go straight into the ASA annual meeting if you like. So would encourage everyone to check that out. So thank you very much. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today for this really interesting conversation. And we'll see you again in June. Thank you. Bye, everyone.